and these guys are, they're all over the map in terms of personalities. So you just got to be engaged with them constantly, and you can't let them think that you're asleep at the wheel.
So do you believe that we should move toward, how do we say this, hiring and paying as if we have the best of the best, or do you believe we should hire and pay at more of a mediocre standard and just know that people are going to leave?
I believe we should always strive to get the best person for the position that we're trying to fill, and we need to pay accordingly.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I just have one more.
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll ask you the same question that I had asked before about how do you balance, from an economic growth perspective, how do you balance proactive infrastructure development versus kind of the waiting until something happens? How do you balance that to ensure we're spending money wisely?
That's a good question. I mean, first and foremost, we've got to take care of what we've got. And I don't think that to date we've necessarily done that. And I'm talking about not just this governing body, but I mean decades past. I think we're all aware of some of those issues. That's first. Secondly, I guess to get into whether or not you develop in a certain area or not. I mean, one of the things that we keep talking about is the Southeast Quadrant. Personally, if I owned property in the Southeast Quadrant, I don't know what I would think about these discussions. I mean, currently that's not Gardner, and these are farmers down there. So I don't know where, you know, honestly, I don't know what to say about how you just decide, okay, we're going to run some sewer lines over here, and we're going to pave that street, 183rd or whatever. I don't know how you do that, honestly.
Sure. I got a couple of questions, Lee.
Sure.
And I'm going to piggyback right on that answer you just gave regarding Southeast Quadrant and unincorporated areas of the geographical region. Annexation is a huge deal. It's going to become a bigger deal in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
How would you, as a councilman, pursue an annexation policy that would best put us in a position to leverage economic development in areas that are not within the city limits currently?
Well, I think first and foremost, before you go annexing anything, you better go talk to those property owners and get their take on it. I think that's first and foremost. We can't have a policy. We can't even have a policy that if we don't first talk to the people to find out what their feelings are and how they're going to like being pulled into what Gardner currently is. We're going to have to convince them what Gardner's going to be 10 years from now, and unfortunately, in some cases, it's going to be a Gardner where their farm that's been in their family for 80-some years is no longer their family farm. So, you know, you tell me, how are you going to do that?
You'll be one of these people maybe, and then we'll both be having to deal with it. But no, the reason why I come up with that question is because you have to know where you're going before you can get there.
Right.
All right? Annexation's a big part of our future, whether it's to the west, what little is to the west, or to the south and to the east. That's going, I mean, in order for us to attract large businesses to come to this community, we're going to have to be able to leverage opportunities that are on that side of the interstate that currently are not available to us right now, and that means we're going to have to look at annexation policy. You have to have a policy before you can actually start to annex.
Right. I guess first step in developing that policy would have to be establishing how we're going to make lines of communication with the current property owners. And then I guess you have to go from there.
Okay, good. That's a perfectly reasonable answer. The second thing is, from your perspective on being on the EUAB and also on the previous EUB, you talked about you know, doing some consolidation of utilities and getting it running like a business. Mm-hmm. So what's your vision for that specifically?
Well, I understand that we are currently actively recruiting for a utility director. The utility director will preside over water, wastewater, and electric. I'm hoping we're also planning to establish an advisory board, much like the EUAB. Personally, I would like to see a little bit more authority delegated to that body, whatever falls within legal ramifications, or however you say that. I want, I would like to see it less political, because I think that's what has poisoned us, our ability to be able to take care of these things over decades. It's been city councils past that didn't want to pass a responsible, increase, because they didn't want to get tied up in increased costs to citizens and voters. So I think that that has been a big problem for us, and the former electric utility board is a perfect test case for how that was addressed, and it basically polarized that and let us see exactly how running something without the politics involved can actually be quite successful compared to what we've done, for example, on water and wastewater over the last 40 years.
Thanks.
Corey? No, I don't have any questions. I don't have any either. You've got a minute for some.
Well, I'd just like to say I appreciate the opportunity. I'd like to thank Larry Fodovich for stepping down, since he no longer lives in Gardner. Also, I'd just like to say that I really enjoy my volunteer opportunities that I've had in Gardner, and whether I am able to serve on the council or not, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. I really enjoy the Electric Utility Advisory Board. I think we have a pretty good team with the guys that are appointed there, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee.
Pretty good team with the guys that are appointed there, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, last of the applicants, Todd Winters.
Yes,
Todd Winters, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome, and you're allotted 2 minutes for opening remarks.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Todd Winters, and I'm a resident of Gardner, live out in Quail Meadows with my wife and 2 children. And I lived there since about 2005, and I started a business in Gardner in about 2001. I think kind of a unique perspective owning a business and living in Gardner. It gives me a very vested interest in the success of Gardner as a community. I do feel that I can bring a lot of experience to the council. I was elected and served 4 years on the council, 1 year as president. It was difficult 4 years, I will say, but it was a very good experience, and I think coming onto the council, I can make a fairly seamless transition to do that. I've been active in the community for quite a while. I've been on numerous boards, been the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been president of Rotary, still active in Rotary and the Chamber, as well as on the Festival on the Trails, June, 2nd week of June, 3rd week of June, and president of the Festival on the Trails. So I've tried to stay active in the community, and this opportunity opened up, and I thought it would be worthwhile to pursue.
Thanks, Todd. Questions, the first being, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city in the next 3 years, and what steps need to be taken to address it?
Sure. First one, and a lot of these will probably repeat themselves as to what's been said before, but infrastructure is important to accommodate future development. And I know we've lagged behind on some of the infrastructure through the lean years, and I think we need to start or continue to catch up on that. Looking at the capital improvement plan, it looks like there's definitely steps in place over the next few years as increased revenue comes in. improving the lift stations, the water delivery, roads. But I think those are very important, again, because as business and industry develops around the intermodal, and because of the intermodal, because of the daytime economy, I think we need to be prepared for that to occur and not lagging behind, because we'll be in a lot of competition with surrounding communities. Another issue is public safety and making sure that they have the necessary resources to perform what they need to do. And so, you know, building is important, equipment, and staff as well. Obviously, we have some hires to make in the coming future here, and but just making sure that the staff itself, patrol and everyone else is covered on those things. And lastly, I think the parks and the greenways are important as well. You know, community lost my train of thought there. Standard of living is important. So, you know, we have a great park system now, and I want to see that continue to improve, continue to be maintained, because again, as development comes to Gardner and locates in Gardner, we want to present a good face for that. Most of these steps are outlined in the comprehensive plan, I believe, as well as in the capital improvement plan.
Very good. Question number 2 is identify 3 priorities of the city.
Good. And again, some repeats, but I believe hiring a utility director is a priority. And then I also feel that establishing a public utilities board would be very important. Again, with all the infrastructure and things need to be done in that area, I think, you know, running it as a business, having a separate entity doing that is important. When I was on council, was when we made the decision to keep the electric utility. I think it was a good decision, I still do, but also a big part of that was establishing the electric utility board at the time, and I thought they did a great job, and I think adding the other infrastructure with that, I think would be important. Again, improving the lift stations and general infrastructure here in the next few years, again, to attract and be ready for new development. And lastly, of course, hiring a new police chief. We need to get that done soon.
Okay. So, where do you see the city in 5 to 10 years?
Okay. Well, I see several new developments in and around the community, city, preferably industrial, light industrial, helping to offset the tax burden on the residential. I do believe crossing over I-35 into the southeast corridor has been mentioned several times, but I think that's important as well. It's certainly an area we can look to grow in. I see, you know, housing options. I would like to see some variance on that. Higher options, lower options, but a little bit more wider variance than we currently have. And lastly, the downtown area. It'd be nice to see some improvements on that, or some kind of a revitalization. Obviously, we have an issue with the interstate or the roadway cutting through there currently, but you know, it's a really vital part of our community, and I'd like to see that continue to grow and improve.
Okay. So questions for Todd, Heath, we'll begin with you.
Well, Todd caught, just like Lee had, I didn't address it, but in their applications, the presentations, they talk about their political, or not their political, but their civic work and their volunteer work, so I won't ask that question a second time. Have you had the chance to review the CIP and the comp plan, the CIP that we'll be coming back with this month, and then the comp plan as it was voted on earlier in the year?
Yes.
Did you have any, let me ask you, Frank, did you have any concerns, or did you have any negative feedback to what you saw from that?
I mean, I wouldn't say concerns or negative feedback. I mean, I would have questions concerning You know, the larger expenditures, the police station and the new parks building and those things. And I just want to do due diligence to follow up on that. I wouldn't say they were negative, it would be something I would delve into a little further.
Great, thanks, Todd.
Cory?
You were on city council for 4 years and then you didn't seek re-election. What is bringing you back now?
Well, I decided not to re-elect because I was starting a family. So, I have 2 children under 3 years old right now, or 3 and 2. So now things have settled down a little bit, the dust has settled, and a little bit more regular routine, and so I can devote more time at this point in my life.
Anything else, Cory? Christie?
Yeah, I just have one question. You talked about the downtown area, and I know that, the downtown area, it seems to be kind of one of those, it's always brought up as revitalizing the downtown, and there have been different, things that have been done, as well as, maybe not, the opportunities, there have been tax incentives and things that have been done. Maybe we haven't totally maximized the opportunity. Based on your experience and what you've heard in the past, what are some things that you think are critical to being successful in mapping out a plan for that?
To be honest, I don't know, is that tax incentive still in
It's not
place?
anymore.
Okay. I was always in favor of that, and I believe I voted for that. I think that's certainly one option. I was reading some information on possibly, at some point in the next, we're talking 5 to 10 years, but relocating 56 Highway, I think there's been a study undertaken for that. Those are 2 possibilities. I think tax incentive certainly is important. It encourages people to move to that area, to start their business in that area.
Steve?
I just had one question, Todd. It goes back to when you were on the council in 2009, and you had stated that was a very rough time in Gardner's history. The evening when the vote was taken to rescind the agreements and de-annex that property, you voted to de-annex the property. Am I not correct in that?
No.
The intermodal property. There was a vote taken to go forward with the rescinding of the agreements without a de-annexation. And there was only one affirmative person who voted on that, correct? And that was Mary Peters. The other 4 council members decided not to vote on that. They decided to move forward with the annexation. Am I correct on that?
I'm not sure.
The de-annexation occurred, so it had to be a majority that voted for it. It
That's
couldn't have
correct.
just been one person.
That's correct. But if there was a unanimous vote to move forward with the annexation, but before then, there was a motion on the floor by Mary Peters to move forward with the rescinding of the agreements and not go forward with the annexation.
I'm trying to remember, I was not in favor of that, so I'm trying to remember if there was a reason we may have had to at that point.
I thought that you couldn't, if we didn't have the agreement, we couldn't
Right,
annex it.
exactly.
That was
Yeah.
part of
There
It was
was-
already annexed.
Right.
The
Well,
property
No.
was already-
but we didn't have, it was something in.
It was once.
Yeah.
Once one thing was done, if you didn't do the other, then the city was going to be held to
Right.
a very
Right.
much higher level of liability. So at that point, I think it was a liability protection, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think that is correct. I was not in favor of the process. I wasn't in favor of de-annexing or whatever it was. But I believe if what they're saying is correct, I think that's how I remember it is we had to for liability reasons.
And there was some input from our previous city attorney that stated that. So that's correct.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
That's all the questions that I have as well. I don't have any questions as well. Todd, if you'd like to take a minute
Sure,
to
just
sum up?
Sure. Again, I think I'd be excited to be a part of your council. I think I'd bring, experience and good commitment to it. I won't bring a personal agenda. you know, I'm basically here just for what's best for Gardner and our community. I think you guys have done a great job so far in moving the city forward in the past few years. Things have really started to roll, and I would like to be a part of that and help facilitate that process.
Okay. Well, very good. Have a seat. At this point, we will open up the floor to public comments on new business item number 8. And with nobody coming forward, at this point, we've got sheets to rank the candidates in front of us. We're going to do that, and the city clerk will collect, and we will go from there.
So now we'll wait while they're calculating.
Yes. Well,
Mr. Mayor, can I ask for a 2 or 3 minute recess just so we can get to the bathroom and?
certainly.
All right.
Council's well, actually,
No, while they're being tabulated.
while the votes are being tabulated, maybe 5 minutes for comfort.
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes.
I thought about it when I got home yesterday. They were watching a Christmas movie on Hallmark Channel. But don't use more.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you're right, You want the lowest, okay.
All right, if we can start to get people heading back towards their seats.
Yeah, good.
I think we've got enough of everyone back. We do have, the top three candidates. Lee Moore was recognized as one, Todd Winters as two, and Sean Carlisle as three. So, since we hadn't really planned for changing the process quite like this, I'm going to, we will start with I don't want to do this exactly. Sean Carlisle, and we will ask each of you individually whether or not you want.
Report on which.
Yeah, that's.
Is where we are.
Jeannie? We're in uncharted territory here.
He's like, yes, you are.
I think it's pretty clear what we can do. We just ask, how many people would like to see Lee Moore serve on the council? How many would like to see Todd
Yeah,
Winters?
hold on just a moment. And I think what we will do is start with, Sean Carlisle. There are 5 of us, and I will ask each of us individually. Corey, would you like to see Sean Carlisle serve on the council?
No.
Heath?
No.
Christie?
No.
Steve Shute?
No.
And Mayor votes no. Sean, and actually all of the people that applied, thank you very much for your interest, and your civic mindedness, your high civic mindedness. So Todd Winters, Steve Shute,
No.
Troy Roberts,
Yes.
Christie Harrison,
No.
Keith Freeman,
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. And Lee Moore, Councilman Freeman?
This is the part, can you only vote for one person at this point? Is that the intent that you had here? All right. I mean,
I think that
because they're both
decision-
worthy the rules.
Yeah, I think the decision's been
Kinda
been
Now
made,
you've got
but-
three,
but-
you've got three
but-
number ones there.
But we might as well
That's what we had.
take our vote. So Heath,
No.
Christie Harrison,
Yes.
Troy Roberts,
No.
Steve Shute.
Yes.
Mayor votes no. We have a consensus on a candidate. I would entertain.
I would like to move that we appoint Todd Winters to the city council seat vacated by Larry Fodovich with a term expiring in April of 2015.
Second.
Motion Freeman, second Roberts, that we appoint Todd Winters to fulfill the unexpired term of Councilman Larry Fodovich. Troy Roberts,
Yes.
Keith Freeman,
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. That is consensus. Everyone, thank you very much for your time. Todd Winters, welcome back to the city council.
We went to do swearing in tonight or save that for next meeting?
We swear in tonight, we save that. Yeah, actually, if we could, Todd, could you join us on the dais? Oh, Guys, we're actually conducting some business.
I, Todd Winters.
I, Todd Winters,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
And the Constitution of the State of Kansas.
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
And faithfully discharge the duties.
and faithfully discharge the duties
As
Okay, so that takes us to the end of this evening's, city council, new business agenda. We can move on to, council updates. Does staff have anything for council? Mary Bush? No? 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 Laura? Does council have anything for staff?
Oh,
I had a
okay,
couple.
go ahead.
Okay, well, I just wanted to reiterate the mayor's thoughts. It's terribly exciting to have 8 applicants this evening, have 6 stand up to speak. I think it just talks about what we're seeing in the community as a whole, and just more people being engaged in the process. I can't remember there ever actually being 6 applicants for, in some of the elections, not being 6 candidates for votes. So to have that many for, the application process tonight, I just am very, very thankful to each and every one of you, so thank you very much. A couple questions I did have, one specifically as a follow-up to Debbie Hickman's comments earlier. I just want to remind individuals that might share the sentiment that the opportunity to ask questions on anything that we've discussed in council doesn't end once that may have been voted upon. If you still have questions about what you've seen tonight, any one of the council members would probably very much look forward to your inquiry and ask how they might be able to help. Because especially on something like a finance issue that we'll have again, if there's things you didn't understand, those questions can still be asked and we'll still answer as greatly as possible. The timing may not work this time, but if we can prepare you for the next time, that'd be great. And then just one very quick question for Brian. There's been a couple times people have asked about the timing of the new intersection and the light timing. Is that something that's still working on and in line, or that's already been set in place with the turn arrows and such?
Actually, we just got the lights and the turn signals working, I think Friday.
Yes.
And so we're still tweaking the timing.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Tori?
I just had something for Jeff Stewart and his staff. I volunteered again this year at Boo Bash, and if you've never been to Boo Bash, it's an incredible experience for the whole community. It's just a job well done. Thank you.
All right, I'm working my way this way. You're awful fresh to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no comment so far.
Okay. Christie?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First, on the snow removal stuff, that Mr. Dugan brought up earlier, I was actually a part of when we changed it from 24 to 48 hours. We had overwhelming feedback for that at the time. I do think, based on the comments tonight and some work that we're doing, regarding ADA, that's something maybe we should relook at. So I would appreciate if we could look at, other cities and what that looks like. And then secondly, I don't know about the rest of council, but I've received some additional feedback regarding the direction we gave on the trailer ordinance. So, I guess I just don't want us to get to the next meeting where we're voting on it and have everybody decide that we should relook at it. So I guess my question is, before staff brings that to us on the 17th, is it worthy of another discussion? And some of the feedback that I had when I responded, and asked some more questions, it seems like the concern is more around recreational vehicles, so campers and large boats, versus work trailers. So like I said, I don't know if there's a need to address that again. I just didn't want us to get to the last minute. And
I'll sit with Christine on this. I got a lot of feedback. Most of it, the overwhelming majority of it was not in favor of relaxing the restrictions. And I think that that's something we're going to have to take into consideration. We understand we're trying to make it more flexible for RV owners, but there's even people who are saying we own RVs and we don't like RVs parked in people's driveways. That we pay the $50 or $30 every month to house it over at a Lathe RV in their storage area. They don't understand why other people couldn't do the same thing. So.
Yeah. And actually, I'd like to speak to that because I've received a lot of email about that as well, but it seems to be about 50-50. About half of the people are in favor of relaxing it, and only about half are in favor of keeping the current standard. So
That's what I got, about 50-50. I didn't have overwhelmingly one way or the other.
I think most of us will probably tied into many of the same conversations, so yeah, it's been Well, both sides have brought, well, to Christie's point, there were new conversations that we hadn't had yet, which might warrant another evening of conversation as a council before we direct staff to draft new policy.
Okay.
And then, oh, sorry.
Well, so, I guess, actually, to your point, I mean, are we still basically in consensus that we wanna move in the direction that we gave staff at the last meeting for changing?
My preference would actually be, if it's possible, and I don't know how much work staff has done yet, to present at the very least a draft of the revised ordinance, the way we directed, in a work session for further discussion and opportunity to try, put some different ramifications with it.
Sure.
And in the meantime, because this is an issue that's up in the air, it's not one that we really can, I think, and Cheryl and I have talked about this, and I think that we need to not be pursuing code violations against people that have their, wherever they might have their RVs parked while we're in the process of, sorting out exactly how the future code's going to look. How does everybody feel about that?
One of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I know the school district does this, but, I think that there's some, employee type things that maybe, I don't know if I'm the only one or if everybody's hearing, there's rumors and speculations about things that are going on. And, one of the things I talked to Cheryl about is, could we potentially, I don't know if it's every month or every other month, I don't know what the right time frame is, but have kind of a documented 30-minute executive session, to talk and, make council aware of any of those things, so that we're not caught off guard and we're not having to listen to rumor and speculation. So I just wanted to throw that out there as an option, and maybe there's times when we wouldn't utilize it, maybe there's nothing, but I just think that, I mean, I know I don't like not knowing some things that are going on, so.
And not that there's a tremendous amount that we
No,
can share
but-
with anybody, other than we know that situations do exist, or we understand the reason why someone has departed. And I would like to be able to direct her to, when there is enough to warrant an executive session, we should have one, and maybe even on a regular monthly basis. And we can rely on staff to tell us how long we really need to go into executive session. This shouldn't be anything where we're adjourning every meeting for a set period of time, even though we don't have issues to discuss. It should be, we're going to adjourn into executive session, how long do we need to be in there? If it's 5 minutes, great. If it's half an hour, great. How does that sound to everybody?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay.
And then just one last thing, and this is more for Brian, and I know Brian's kind of new to taking over some roles, but I know that there's been, personally, that I've been involved in some conversations, whether it be with, commercial real estate agents or some landowners, and then also a business owner who's trying to expand. And I know that you've been working through those issues. I would like, at some point in time soon, to understand what those issues are, like, have all of council understand what those issues are, and if there's any recommendations for changes on making that, or, I mean, we talked a lot about, tonight, about new business and sending those, and I think our existing businesses who are trying to expand investment here are struggling. So I'd like to just in a work session, get some of the information that you've learned, and if I can help invite some of those people, I mean, we'll try and reach out for those as well. I just think that's something we need to get ahead of fairly quickly.
Okay. Steve, anything?
Yeah, I have one specific thing. We now have a new council member, and so we're gonna need to have a vote on a new vice president of the council. And
That'll be-
That's going to happen at the very beginning of the next meeting?
Very beginning of next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I've got, two quick things, and the first is, Cheryl and I and Brian, both as Public Works as he's assumed a little bit of community development work, met with our friends and neighbors to the southwest, Mayor Roberts and City Administrator Beth Lynn, to talk about growth and growth in southwest Johnson County and how we can work together. I don't have a tremendous amount of detail about this yet, but what we agreed upon is that we want to put together a Southwest Johnson County growth strategy team. Now, Mayor Roberts is a staff member for the city of Gardner. He's probably not going to, he's not going to participate in those conversations because of that. I'm not going to participate in those conversations because of that. So, sometime in the near future, I'm going to be reaching out for a couple of council members to ask them to serve and work with a couple of council members from Edgerton, city staff from both cities, and there might be some people that have done some of the planning work for Southwest Johnson County in the recent past that might be able to volunteer some of their time to help with that, with the intention of understanding, you know, where we can grow and how we can grow and when we can get to a place where we can grow in particular areas, and so that we avoid, we heard a lot of talk about duplication of effort this evening, and gosh, we don't want to be laying sewer pipes on one side of the street and have Edgerton laying sewer pipes on the other side. So, I'm not reaching out to anybody yet, but this is something that's going to be coming up, and I'm going to be talking to some of you very soon, and I want you to think about it. This is going to be a very important partnership for our future. And additionally, I'm so pleased to have had such a great turnout. And several of the candidates talked about getting people involved, and I think that this is part of an ongoing initiative to get people involved, and I think that this shows some of the success we've had with doing outreach and trying to bring people that were wanting to be involved in what's going on in the city, as well as city government, and that's commendable, and I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Todd back to the council, and I want to thank everybody again. However, and I understand that sometimes the people in the audience don't get their agendas at the same time we do, and that's by design. We need to be able to get our agendas. We get them a couple days before the public does, so that we can digest them a little bit, and so that if someone that sees their agenda has a question and wants to ask us about it, we might be able to help provide them an answer. In the meantime, if we have questions, we've got plenty of time to ask questions of staff. Members of the council have time to ask questions of anybody on the staff, or can contact me if they've got a problem with something that's going on in the next agenda. It's not the first time that we've had a situation where we've spelled out a process and changed it at the last moment, and it's caused delays and a little bit more heartburn than is probably necessary. So I implore everyone on the council that if you've got issues, solve them with staff members, contact me, so that we can work through these things together before we get into a meeting like this and have to make a change to a process that's already been published for the entire, public in Gardner to see. So, that's all I've got. And if there's nothing else, and we're on the right side of 10 o'clock, I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second Harrison, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.